Check 1, 2, 3. Normal talking volume, reading questions from people in Discord. Okay, hey guys. This is Coral's Corner. Welcome to my corner, my beautifully lit
It's still
corner.
my house.
It is, but it looks different. It looks like you're hanging out with a cool neon teen in her room while she vlogs to you about your questions. So, yeah. All right, you guys asked me some weird stuff in Discord, so I'm just gonna talk to you guys. Let's go. Okay. Xander Harris said, Dear Coral, you already know Buffy is the greatest TV show of all time. What is your favorite season and episode? Inquiring minds need to know. My favorite season at this point is probably 3. It used to be 5 and then 6 for a long time, but the last time I rewatched it, I really vibed with the high school energy and I think the mayor plotline is like the best season arc of that show, and the graduation and all that, which means the finale of season 3, graduation, is one of my favorite episodes. I also really like the Zeppo, which I think is in season 3, which is the weird one where Xander just has like a normal scary teen plotline where he's like hanging out with bullies and gets in trouble and he's running around town, and in the like fringe of that whole episode you have like just offhand references to like an apocalypse that they're just fighting in the distance while Xander's having like weird girlfriend problems. And that episode's really interesting and really self-aware. And yeah, that's an unpopular choice for great Buffy episode, but that's probably my pick. Dude with the paper bag said, Dear Coral, if you had to make a basketball team made of wild animals, which animals would you pick? I would think a team of big birds of prey would have been the best, but I think their talons would pop the ball. True. Okay, I think if you're playing, what is this, basketball? Yes, basketball. You have to be aware of the ball. You have to pick an animal that can handle a ball, which is tough without the thumbs and everything. So I think for my choice, I would go with kangaroos, because they can put the basketball in their little pouch. They can hop, so that gives them air. They can get closer to the basket, and they're pretty buff. Like kangaroos can like fuck you up. So I think a kangaroo is a strong choice. They've got all 3 attributes you need, I think, to be good at basketball. Racedale said, Dear Coral, I'm about to adopt a dog soon and wondering what do you think are some less common things I am probably forgetting about? Yay! Congrats on adopting a dog. Dogs are good. I like dogs. I don't have a dog because they're too much work right now. But I always grew up with dogs, and my parents actually just got a puppy, and I went to go visit my parents a few weeks ago and meet the puppy. Widget is her name. And I was mostly just surprised at how fucking annoying puppies are. So if I give you any advice, it would be don't get a puppy. They're the worst. They're so much work. It's like babysitting a child for months, actually. And their teeth are really sharp, and they are not like house trained yet. So I think I'm sure people have already told you this, but dogs are just a lot of work. It's a big commitment, and it's not something to take lightly. That's why I got cats, because they're pretty low maintenance. But one of my best friends growing up, about every other year, her family decided it was time to adopt a dog, and they would adopt a dog, and like 6 months later realize that they can't handle a dog and get rid of the dog. And this memory is burned in my mind because they probably went through like 4 or 5 dogs while I was friends with her. And that's it's a member of your family, and it's a lot of work, and it's just something to know that you're committing to when you decide to get a dog. That's, I think, the most important thing. Strusseldorf said, who is the best character on Mad Men, and why was it Roger? It wasn't Roger. It was not. None of the men of that show are the best characters on Mad Men. Sally Draper is a dark horse, but by the end of that show, I think she's great. And then also just Betty. There's the image of her in her nightgown in her front yard early in the morning with like a shotgun and a cigarette and perfect hair shooting pigeons while her neighbors freak out is one of my favorite scenes from early in that show. And I think no one likes Betty. Betty gets the same rap as like Skylar White in Breaking Bad, where there's this like huge portion of people who watch that show who can't stand her. And obviously the parallel of her being the wife to the troubled male lead of the show. But Betty was a mom and a wife because she felt like that was the only option at the time, and she was really bad at being both of those things. And I think that's just a really great, interesting character that you don't get to see a lot on TV. And of course that made her kind of unlikable, because you usually see her just being a bad mom or being a bad wife, but she was this symbol of like lost potential and just the pettiness and the anger that like boils inside you when that happens to you. So Betty Draper is probably my favorite. Akoto Roku said, Dear Coral, have you watched anything you consider a worthy successor to Buffy? Buffy-esque shows seem to have been cropping up a lot in the last few years. Yeah, I haven't ever found anything that I think hits the same notes as Buffy perfectly. The first thing that comes to mind is Misfits. It's a British show about a bunch of juvenile delinquents who, while they're doing community service, they get struck by lightning in this weird storm, and it gives all of them superpowers, but it's really darkly written, and the first few seasons are really phenomenal, and each of their superpowers are kind of tied to their personality. So the person who is really shy and awkward and doesn't have a lot of friends, like his superpower is that he can become invisible and stuff like that. But it has that same balance of like weird supernatural stuff and just kind of teen drama. It's not nearly as good, but Pretty Little Liars hits some similar notes of the weirdness of being a teen girl extrapolated out into this horrifying plotline. I think the heart of The Good Place is a similar heart that Buffy has, and the kind of magical realism of that show is similar to Buffy. Forgotten Toothpick said, Dear Coral, I've tried everything, but my vegan turkey is still dry. What do I do? Tofurkey is bad, and it's dry, and the only way around it is to just pair it with something that's really not dry. That's the only thing I found. I don't know if you're buying like vegan turkey pre-made, but the other thing you can do is make your own. The easiest thing to make is seitan, and that's like you make a dough out of Vital Wheat gluten, and there's a million different ways to cook it. But the best way to cook it, if you have a lot of time, is to like triple cook it. So you make the dough, and it's seasoned however you want, and then you rip it into all the little pieces, and then you quick fry it, just like a minute or two on each side. You don't have to cook it through or anything, you just quick fry it, and then you boil it in like whatever broth you want. I use like one that's part veggie broth, but there's a lot of garlic in it, and some soy sauce and Worcestershire sauce, and you boil it in that for a long time. That's what makes it juicy. And then when you're done, you take it out and throw it like under a broiler or something for a few minutes, and it gets really like crisp and crunchy around the edges, but is really moist and juicy inside. And it's super customizable. You can make it kind of whatever flavors you want. And that's really good, but that's like a day of work. It's also really good for kebabs. I think that's it. I think that's everything so far. The only other thing I want to talk about is that I had this really weird, creepy dream last week that I keep thinking about, and since I had it, I've been having a lot of other really weird, creepy dreams, and I usually don't remember my dreams. So I had this dream that I was in this creepy old house that was mostly empty. And it was at night, and there were no lights on in the house. I was just walking through it, and I went into like a dining room area, and there was a cabinet that had a bunch of like weird trinkets and like an old radio that was off and stuff like that. And there was a small TV. It was a black and white TV, and Vincent Price was on the TV, and he was explaining all the different trinkets and like how they relate to death and the afterlife. And then he looked directly to camera and said that every person takes one breath in their life, and that is the breath where they breathe death inside of them, and their death just sits with them and in them for the rest of their life. And from the moment that you breathe that death in, your death is decided, and it's gonna happen the way it's gonna happen, and from that point on, you can't change it. And he asked me if you know what breath that will be for you. Is it this one? Maybe. And then I shot awake, and it was really weird, and I keep thinking about it, and I keep having similar dreams in the same house, and it's weird. And yeah, so I think that's Coral's Corner. If you want this to be something else, or you have different questions or different things you want me to talk about, let me know, because I don't know what I'm doing, and I don't know what I'm good at talking about. Not many things. So any suggestions would be welcome. All right, I think that's it.